to another interview with El Vocero Hispano. The past few days, we have been meeting candidates who are running for different positions in this upcoming election, which takes place on Tuesday, November 8th. Today, I have Lana Maria Escamilla, who is running as judge for the Kalamazoo 8th District Court. She's here to speak about some of her past experiences and what difference she would be making if she does become elected this November. Welcome, and thank you so much for coming here and making that drive from Kalamazoo to Grand Rapids.
Thank you.
Yeah. So before we start diving into like the specifics, I just wanted the community to kind of get to know you a little bit more and know your past. So mentioning that, what does your experience or your education kind of look like within the legal field?
Sure. So I attended Western Michigan University. I was part of the Lee Honors College, and my background is in behavioral psychology. Mm-hmm. I continued on to Michigan State University College of Law, and that's where I obtained my law degree. And I've been practicing law for about 15 years, and I've handled everything from the simple misdemeanor to complex commercial litigation. I've represented individuals, I've represented nonprofits, businesses, financial institutions, and I've spent a great deal of time working in the probate court with vulnerable individuals that have mental health issues, they might be developmentally disabled, and I've also gained experience by working at immigration clinics, helping individuals seek legal political asylum, the pro bono clinics, and the probate clinics, which are very important because they help people who don't typically have the funds to have have questions answered and to help with some of the legal issues that arise with our population.
Okay, it sounds like you've been pretty involved with the community, especially those that are kind of like the minority ones too, some that are facing some issues, like you mentioned, the being low income and all of that. While I was reading your background, I also saw that you're a founding member and partner of Escamilla and Salisbury. What makes that actual like law firm different compared to others?
So our law firm is female owned, and because I'm Hispanic, we're part minority owned. We are really into giving back to our community, my partner and I, and one thing that we've been able to do is take on cases and really try to help people that might lose their house. We have actually helped people that have had cases in our local 8th District Court that would have lost their house because of a land contract forfeiture, and they're now homeowners. We both believe in having a work-life balance, and so we're not a law firm that's out there just to try to hit these huge marks financially, but part of what we feel strongly about is giving back to the community and doing what we can to help those that need.
Yeah. Have you seen that the minority communities kind of struggle more within like the landlord and tenants or housing situations within your past? Like, have you seen that kind of be common?
I've seen some of it. The minority population is smaller than the white population, but what we've really seen is I think just people in general who are low income, and so that would affect all people. There is a language barrier, so especially when you're talking about Hispanic people, I have had people that suffer because the language barrier, and I am not fluent. I wish I was, but it's very important to have someone that can actually communicate with those with people like that, because just because a word is translated doesn't mean that's really what the meaning is. And so I've seen a lot of that. I've represented unaccompanied refugee minors, and I don't believe that the translation she was receiving was appropriate. So I found a personal friend who I knew could communicate with her, and that's made a huge difference. And I think that as attorneys we have to be aware, and if I'm a judge, you have to be aware that the language barriers and the culture barriers can make a huge difference, and sometimes that means someone is not fully understanding their rights.
Yeah, that's true. I have seen that too. I usually, like I mentioned before the interview, I usually write in English, and just having all of that translated into Spanish, it's a big difference. There's some words that aren't really exactly or automatically translated how it should be. So I think
Yes.
a lot of people do appreciate that, especially you going forward and looking for a friend and trying to figure out what the appropriate translation is for those people.
Right, and even with contracts, I know my father has come down and volunteered to translate too, because with I think different cultures, especially if they're not native to the United States, our rules and our regulations are different, and so sometimes they may not be fully complying with a contract, not because they're intentionally doing it, but because they don't understand that it's necessary. So, for instance, I've represented. Actually, on the other side, financial institutions where they did have a contract for a mortgage, and the individuals were paying their mortgage, but they didn't realize that they had to pay their taxes too. So they were in default. So by having someone come in who could speak with them and explain it, it actually brought it back where they were able to start paying appropriately and accordingly, and now their mortgage is paid off. And so it's absolutely important to have people that can come in there and say, okay, explain it in a way that they can understand, because a lot of times you see these legal issues not because someone's trying to not comply, but it's because they don't understand how you can comply.
Yeah, and it looks like you like you mentioned, you're Hispanic. You came from a Hispanic family and all of that. So we were speaking a little bit about your grandfather before the interview started. Can you speak a little bit about what he has done within the community and how that has impacted you?
Yes. My grandfather, he came from Texas. He came during the civil rights movement in the 70s, and he definitely was a trailblazer in trying to help the Hispanic community. Things were definitely different, I think, in the 1970s, and so he was instrumental in starting the Hispanic American Council, which is now El Concilio. He had 11 children with my grandmother, and they had a farm, but he still found time to work at the paper union. He worked. He was also the president, he worked at the paper mill. He was the president of the union. He became the deacon of the local Catholic Church. So St. Joseph, they have Spanish Mass, and part of the group he was involved with is how they started the Hispanic American Council, and he fought for migrant rights and was instrumental in getting the bilingual program started. People that I've talked to have talked about how he was always willing to minister the sick in their house, at the hospitals. He was always willing to give a warm meal, advice. He didn't judge people. He just really wanted to lift up the community. And I think it's amazing to have someone like that you can look up to. And I'd like to carry on his legacy and try to break down barriers and help people.
And as I mentioned, if you were to become elected on November 8th, you would be the first Hispanic judge within the Kalamazoo County. What does that representation mean to you?
Well, I think that it's time. I think that, when my grandfather came, his dream, he didn't have a college education. His dream was for his grandchildren to have education. And I think that it shows people that it doesn't matter, what color you are, what your socioeconomic status is, you can do this. And I think we really need to work to lift people up. And when I've talked to people, sometimes, they're afraid to go to court. And I think we should look at court as a resolution. And it's important to have people there that can understand possibly what some of the people in front of them have gone through. And it's different populations have different issues and need different help. So I think that it would be good for them to see someone who is familiar, but also to lift someone up. So maybe some other girl in our community will decide to go to law school and be part of the legal field.
Yeah, for sure. And as a judge, if you were to become elected, what are some of the ideas or issues that you would be able to support as judge if it came to that point?
So we have a huge issue with youth violence, and our crime has actually gone up exponentially in the last few years. And so Kalamazoo does have a lot of specialty courts and programs to try to help curb those. A lot of people that are in front of the justice system are there because they do have mental health issues or drug addiction issues. And with my background being in behavioral psychology, I always have I've wanted to help people and try to get to the root of what's causing these problems. And so I think those specialty courts are important. I think we should, possibly build upon those. We don't have a veterans court anymore. I think that's important. And I'd also like to, mentor and get more youth involved in trying to do programs from a young age to lift them up. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think those are all great ideas. As you mentioned, violence has gone up, I think, in all areas. We have seen that here locally in Grand Rapids as well. So I think targeting the youth would be a good idea, kind of starting them early to get more involved within the community, but in a positive way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And just the one question is, why did you decide to run as judge for that specific position in that county?
So the district court is kind of considered the people's court, and most people, if they're going to be in the court system, are going to come in front of the district court. You handle tickets, misdemeanors that are punishable up to a year, landlord-tenant, civil cases up to $25,000, preliminary exams for felonies. But I am a people person, and I feel like I am a person for all people. While I was going through school and up to law school, I worked 2 jobs. I waited tables, and so I'm very, and I was a single mom during that time period. So I have probably experienced some of those things, maybe some of the financial hardship, or worrying about a ticket and what it's going to do to my insurance. So I feel like I can really relate. And with these people, I think we absolutely do need to hold people accountable, but we need to be able to turn the situation that made them appear in court into a positive situation for them so that they can move forward. And coming from a multicultural background, I know that I can be fair and unbiased, and I think it's really important that we have that. We need to make sure people believe in our judicial system, and I also just want to give back to our community and follow on in my grandfather's legacy and try to continue to break down barriers.
Okay. What do you think is the difference between you and your opponent? So why do you believe that the community should be voting for you?
Well, I am a lifelong resident of Kalamazoo County. I've lived there for 44 years. I am 100% committed to the community. My children have been raised there. I have volunteered for all kinds of programs throughout my life, and so I'm invested in a lot of my friends. They still live there. Their children live there. I was a coach for Battle of the Books, Girls on the Run. I worked in the preschools. Or the co-op preschool that my children went to. I was on the board. I was in the city of Portage Parks and Recreation Board, where we really focused on family and youth events. And so I have this vested interest that has grown over time because my family lives there, my friends live there. I also have 15 years of legal experience handling pretty much most things that are in front of the district court judge, and I've practiced all over the state of Michigan, and so I've seen what works in different courts and what doesn't. And then, of course, I have the background that I spoke of, where I can really relate to the individuals that maybe come in front of me. And so I think that it's really important to have someone who can relate and identify with the people that are in front of them, and who's 100% committed to improving the community.
Okay, I think those are all great ideas, and the other thing that you mentioned too is that representation is important, especially the minorities are probably aren't there. You did mention to me before the interview that there's a small percentage of attorneys, I believe, that are minorities or women. So I think if you were to become judge, that would be kind of historic.
Yes, absolutely. I believe that less than 2% of attorneys in Michigan are Latina, and I really think that we need more. We need to encourage people to continue on and to know that, by hard work, and you can, accomplish those goals, and you can be an attorney or you can be a judge. And I think that, that's really what I want to get out there, is that you can really be anything you want to be, and it's so important to vote and be part of the community.
Okay. Is there anything else that you think I mentioned or didn't mention, or something that you want to emphasize to the community?
No, I just, thank you for, interviewing and talking with me, and I am always happy to talk with people and to try to give them advice on what they can do if they decide they want to go to law school, or even just to listen and encourage people.
Okay.
So.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for traveling to Grand Rapids. I know it's a little small trip, so we appreciate your time, and I wish you the best of luck.
Okay. Thank you
election.
so much.
Yeah. Elections do take place on Tuesday, November 8th. If you want to learn more about Lana, you can visit votelanaescamilla.com. You can visit her Facebook page by searching Lana Maria Escamilla for Kalamazoo County 8th District Judge. To see if you are registered to vote, you can visit michigan.gov/vote. The time has passed if you want to register online, but you can still do so if you visit your local clerk's office. For more interviews in English and Spanish, you can visit our YouTube page at Vocero Hispano TV. You can visit our Facebook page at Vocero Hispano and our website at vocerous.com.